Verydarkman condemned the behavior of trending Ibom Air passenger. Watch this video and let me know what you think on the comment section. Verydarkman said it's another day at the airport when passengers began boarding the Ibom Air evening flight. Inside the cabin, there was the usual quiet buzz of travelers finding their seats, placing their bags in the overhead compartments, and preparing for takeoff. It was supposed to be an ordinary trip, smooth, quick, and uneventful. But for everyone on board that day, it became a flight they would never forget. Among the passengers was a young woman, dressed in flashy clothes, her phone glued to her hand as she scrolled and typed away without care. The cabin crew, led by a smiling female air hostess, moved through the aisle with the calm, professional tone they had practiced countless times. When it was time for the safety announcements, the hostess made her way to the front of the aircraft, picked up the microphone, and addressed everyone. Her voice was gentle but clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, for your safety and the safety of others, please switch off your mobile devices or put them in flight mode." It was the same instruction given on every single flight, simple, straightforward, and not up for debate. Most passengers complied immediately, pressing buttons on their phones, slipping them into pockets or bags. But not this woman. She didn't even look up. The hostess walked over politely, leaning slightly to ensure the passenger could hear her over the background noise. "Ma, please switch off your phone or put it in flight mode," she repeated with a friendly smile. Instead of cooperating, the passenger looked up sharply, her face hardening with irritation. "Do you know who I am?" she snapped. "Don't tell me what to do. This is my phone. I paid for my ticket." A few nearby passengers exchanged glances. They knew this was going in the wrong direction. The hostess tried again, still calm, still polite. But the woman's voice grew louder, her tone sharper. And then, without warning, she kicked out at the hostess. Not a light tap, but an aggressive blow aimed to humiliate and assert dominance. Gasps filled the cabin. A male airline official rushed forward to help, but he too received kicks as she lashed out wildly, shouting insults and calling them names. She was no longer just refusing to follow rules. She was attacking people who were simply doing their jobs. The situation spiraled quickly. Other crew members stepped in, trying to de-escalate the tension. But the passenger wasn't listening. Her voice echoed through the aircraft, drowning out any attempt at reason. Passengers pulled out their phones, recording the shocking scene as it unfolded. The captain, informed of the incident, made an immediate decision. For the safety of the crew and every passenger on board, this woman could not remain on the flight. He called for security. Within minutes, uniformed airline security operatives entered the aircraft, their expressions serious. They approached her calmly, asking her to step out of the plane. She refused. Instead, she kicked again, this time at one of the male security staff. That was the final straw. Two of them moved in, firmly restraining her arms. Her screams filled the cabin as they pulled her from her seat. The walk down the narrow aisle was slow and tense. She twisted, she shouted, she tried to break free, but the security operatives were trained for situations like this. They held her steady, ignoring her insults, and led her out through the aircraft door. Passengers watched in stunned silence. Some shook their heads, others whispered to each other, but no one stepped forward to defend her. Everyone could see clearly. This wasn't a case of misunderstanding. This was deliberate defiance and aggression. As they stepped onto the tarmac, the hot evening air hit her face. Her protests continued, but the security team didn't respond. They escorted her directly to the airport security office, where her details were taken. The airline filed a formal complaint, and she was officially handed over to the police. By nightfall, she was no longer at the airport. She was inside a prison holding facility, awaiting charges. Her actions had turned what should have been a smooth journey into a public humiliation that would follow her for a long time. For those who were on that flight, the memory would stay fresh. They knew that in the world of aviation, rules are not suggestions, they are life-saving measures. A single act of stubbornness can put hundreds of lives at risk. This woman didn't just refuse to switch off her phone. She disrespected the people responsible for keeping her safe and physically attacked them. The viral video of her being dragged out by security was shared countless times. In it, you could see the moment her arrogance met reality. The look on her face as she was taken away, the murmurs of passengers, the the calm but firm grip of the officers who escorted her out. It was a reminder to everyone watching that the sky has no room for ego, and rules are there for a reason. In just a few minutes, her life had shifted from a seat on a comfortable flight to a cell behind bars. And for the crew and passengers of that Ibom Air flight, it was a lesson they wouldn't forget anytime soon. No matter who you think you are, safety rules apply to everyone. News of the shocking Ibom Air incident spread quickly, with the viral video making its way across the country within hours. By the next morning, almost everyone had seen the clip. Some people watched in disbelief, others in outrage, and a few, surprisingly, in misplaced sympathy for the woman involved. But then came the voice of one man who was not about to sugarcoat the truth: social commentator and activist, Verydarkman. Known for speaking his mind without fear or favor, he took one look at the incident and made his stance crystal clear. There would be no excuses, no pity, no "she's a woman" defense. In his words, the woman's actions were a disgrace, a threat to everyone on that flight, and an insult to the hard-working people trying to keep her safe. He began by breaking down the situation for Nigerians who, in his opinion, were being sentimental instead of logical. "This is not about embarrassment," he said firmly, looking directly into the camera. "This is about safety. The instructions were simple: switch off your phone or put it in flight mode. That's it. That is not oppression. That is not wickedness. It's standard aviation procedure followed in every country in the world." And she refused. Not only did she refuse, she assaulted the crew. That is criminal. Verydarkman went on to remind people that these rules were not created just for fun, they are a matter of life and death. He gave examples of how even the smallest interference with flight communication can cause disruptions in signal systems between pilots and control towers. "When you are in the air, every life depends on following instructions to the letter," he said. "It's not your father's compound where you can do as you please. If you cannot follow instructions on a plane, you have no business being there." But what really struck a nerve was his strong condemnation of those who were trying to defend the woman simply because she was a Nigerian woman. "Some of you are saying they embarrassed her. Some of you are saying she was treated badly because she is female. That's nonsense. She embarrassed herself. She brought that shame upon herself. Stop being sentimental in cases like this. Wrong is wrong." He didn't stop there. His voice grew sharper as he addressed the issue of accountability. "In Nigeria, we have this terrible habit of supporting bad behavior when it's our friend, our family, or someone from our tribe. But when it happens to someone else, we shout justice. The law is not supposed to be biased. If she was your sister, would you still support her after she endangered hundreds of people on that flight? Think about it." Verydarkman also painted a vivid picture of the possible consequences if the situation had been ignored. He reminded viewers that in aviation, small problems escalate quickly. Imagine the pilot is communicating with the control tower during turbulence and gets interference because someone is using their phone carelessly. Imagine that phone causes a delay in receiving important weather updates. Do you understand that a single second in aviation can mean the difference between life and death? His message was clear: this was not a small matter. The woman was lucky the incident ended with her being dragged out and arrested. It could have been far worse. He also turned his attention to the younger generation, especially those who idolize bad behavior for the sake of social media clout. Some of you think being rude is confidence. You think disrespecting rules makes you bold. Let me tell you, boldness without wisdom is foolishness. And foolishness in the air can kill. The activist didn't spare the topic of respect for authority either. He reminded viewers that flight attendants and airline officials were not personal servants. They were trained professionals responsible for the safety and comfort of passengers. That young lady in the uniform, the one she kicked, do you know how many hours of training she went through? Do you know how many nights she spent away from her family just to make sure she can handle emergencies on flights? And then someone thinks it's okay to assault her because they don't want to switch off a phone? That is unacceptable. For Verydarkman, the lesson was bigger than just this one incident. It was about Nigeria's culture of lawlessness and the urgent need for change. He urged Nigerians to stop glamorizing wrong behavior and to stand firmly on the side of truth, no matter who is involved. He ended his commentary with a statement that resonated deeply: if we keep excusing evil, evil will grow. If we keep defending wrongdoers, we will all pay the price one day. This time, it was just a rude passenger on Ibom Air. Next time, it could be a tragedy that none of us can undo. Stop supporting bad behavior. Stop being sentimental. Stand for what is right. By the time he was done, there was no room for doubt. Verydarkman had spoken his mind, and he had spoken for every Nigerian who valued truth, discipline, and safety. His words were not just a reaction to the viral video, they were a call to action, a warning, and a lesson all rolled into one. For many viewers, his commentary flipped the script. People who initially thought the woman had been treated too harshly began to reconsider their stance. Others who were silent began to speak out against her actions. The message had landed, and it was loud and clear. Rules are not optional, and endangering others will not be tolerated, whether you're a man, woman, rich, or poor. The dust from the Ibom Air incident had barely settled, yet its echoes were still loud across Nigeria. For some, it was just another piece of sensational news. But for others, especially those who understood the importance of discipline and safety, it was a wake-up call. The viral clip of the passenger being dragged out of the aircraft was more than just a public humiliation. It was a live example of what happens when arrogance meets reality. And the truth was, this incident carried a deep lesson that every Nigerian, whether you travel by air or not, needed to hear. On that day, one person's refusal to obey a simple instruction risked the safety, schedule, and peace of hundreds of passengers. This wasn't about a missed bus or a traffic delay, it was about aviation, a field where a single reckless act can trigger a chain reaction of dangerous consequences. If you've ever been inside a plane before takeoff, you know how precise and coordinated the process is. Every crew member has a role, every instruction is timed, and every passenger's cooperation matters. The rule about switching off mobile devices isn't just tradition, it's tied to safety, communication signals, and overall flight stability. Yet in this case, one woman decided those rules didn't apply to her. She didn't just refuse, she turned her refusal into an act of aggression, kicking, insulting, and disrupting the very people tasked with keeping her safe. This is where the lesson begins. Respect for rules saves lives. In Nigeria, too many people treat rules as suggestions. They obey only when it suits them and resist when it feels inconvenient. But rules, especially in critical environments like airports, exist for a reason. They are not there to oppress you, they are there to protect you. When you break them, you are not just defying authority, you are gambling with human lives. If every passenger on that flight had copied her behavior, there would have been complete chaos. The crew would have lost control, safety checks would have been compromised, and the flight could have been delayed for hours or even cancelled. In aviation, delays cost millions, but worse, they can disrupt flight paths and safety schedules for an entire network of flights. Perhaps the most worrying part of this incident was the number of people who rushed to defend her, not because she was right, but because they felt sorry for her. This is the dangerous habit Verydarkman warned against. Defending wrong behavior because you know the person, like them, or share something in common with them. Misplaced sympathy is one of the biggest reasons indiscipline thrives. The moment we start making excuses for bad behavior, we indirectly encourage it. And once it becomes normalized, we all suffer the consequences. Think of it this way. If you defend someone today for endangering lives on a plane, what will you do tomorrow if the same person's actions cause an actual disaster? Your sympathy will not bring back lost lives. In life, no matter who you are, your actions will follow you. That woman boarded that plane with the same rights and privileges as every other passenger. But the moment she crossed the line into physical assault and public disturbance, she forfeited her right to remain on that flight. The embarrassment she faced wasn't handed to her by the airline, it was created by her own choices. She could have simply put her phone on flight mode and enjoyed her trip. Instead, she chose confrontation, and confrontation gave birth to consequences. This is a reality many people still need to accept. The world does not revolve around your personal convenience. If you choose to disrespect the rules of any system, that system will respond. Sometimes, as in her case, that response will be swift, public, and irreversible. This story isn't just about a passenger on Ibom Air, it's about us as a society. It's about the culture of selective obedience, the belief that connections or status put you above the law, and the habit of defending wrongdoers instead of holding them accountable. If we want Nigeria to change, the change must start with everyday actions. It starts with obeying traffic lights even when no one is watching. It starts with queuing in public spaces instead of forcing your way to the front. It starts with respecting rules in the air, on the road, and in every corner of life. If we keep defending bad behavior because it's just a small matter, we will keep breeding bigger problems. The woman on Ibom Air may have been just one person, but her actions are a reflection of a deeper issue, the widespread refusal to submit to discipline when it feels inconvenient. The lesson from this incident is painfully clear. Rules are not optional, and they don't bend for your ego. Whether you are rich, poor, male, or female, the rules of safety exist to protect you and everyone around you. Breaking them doesn't make you bold, it makes you a liability. When the video of that woman went viral, it was a moment for Nigerians to reflect, not to gossip. We should ask ourselves, would I have supported her if I was on that flight? Would I have wanted her to stay on board after attacking the crew? Would I feel safe with her sitting beside me, still on her phone during takeoff? If your answer is no, then you already understand why she had to be removed, why she had to face consequences, and why misplaced sympathy is dangerous. For those who still think she was treated too harshly, remember this: rules keep planes in the sky, roads safe, and societies functional. The moment we start picking and choosing which ones to obey, we open the door for chaos. The woman's fate is sealed for now. She'll face the law, and the embarrassment will live with her for a long time. But for the rest of us, the question remains: will we learn from her mistake, or will we wait for tragedy to teach us the same lesson?